Welcome to the REI Agent, a holistic approach to life through real estate. I'm Mattias, an agent and investor.
And I'm Erica, a licensed therapist.
Join us as we interview guests that also strive to live bold and fulfilled lives through business and real estate investing.
Tune in every week for interviews with real estate agents and investors.
Ready to level up?
Let's do it.
Welcome back to the REI Agent. It's Mattias here in Hilton Head again. It's family vacation, recording two back-to-back podcasts while we're on vacation. Son was sleeping in the next door room, and I had worried that maybe he would fall off a bed or something and start crying. And in the middle of one of these podcasts, luckily that did not happen. However, he did wake up in the last one, so I'm curious if that's going to come through or not. Because he was, we had like 5 minutes left to go, and he was like, "Dad, I'm awake, I'm awake," and he was like banging things a little bit in his room. The joys of trying to work from home kind of and on vacation in our world and in real estate sales. I think the joke is, look, if you're slow, you go on vacation and then things will pick up. I've had a decent amount of work while being gone, and I'm fortunate that the family kind of understands more or less that it's just kind of part of it. But continuing to work on minimizing that as much as possible. So, building up the sales team that can handle more and more of these things when I'm gone, or we can handle it when they're gone, is one of the goals for sure. The podcast happens. This is happening because we had a couple cancellations and knew that we needed to make sure that we recorded enough episodes to not drop the ball and not give you guys an episode one time. So all I have to say is I'm happy to be here. It was some good conversations that I had today. It's kind of fun to have the ability to do this and kind of keep it going. I put together a makeshift recording studio, and it seems to work pretty well. So I know I have this ability to do this in the future. I should be here with like a mojito or something. In the last podcast, I was wearing my fun hat and sunglasses to kind of have fun with the fact that I'm on vacation. But we are currently talking about whether or not we want to leave tonight to try to get back to the house. It's about an 8-hour drive if we don't stop, which anybody who travels with kids knows that we stop a lot. In the past, one of the things we have done is woken up really early, like 2 or 3 in the morning, and started to drive that way that the kids are sleeping for a good chunk of it before then we can try to make 4 or 6 hours of driving without stopping, and then kind of celebrate that victory with a breakfast. Of course, it's probably gonna be McDonald's because that's what they seem to want always. But yeah, it's not an everyday thing, so it's not horrible. Anyway, that's kind of where we're at. If anybody has any tips for how they like to do journeys like that, feel free to reach out, social media, or just comment on wherever you're listening to this. And I would love to hear what you like to do in these kind of scenarios where you're driving 8+ hours. Do you get up early, or do you go through the night to try to take advantage of them sleeping and not talking? Complaining, fighting, wanting to go to the bathroom, all that good stuff. But I should talk about our guest today. We have Clifford Walker on. He is a fun guy. He got into this business from being a truck driver. He'll get into this a little bit here shortly, but he was very encouraging to anybody who is listening, to that has considered getting into real estate investing. To take the plunge and go ahead and do it. There is no better time than now. Of course, you want things to pencil out and be good, not just to do a deal, but chasing that down and taking action, you're never going to regret doing it. So there's no time like now. And with that, I'll just let Clifford tell his story and share his nuggets of wisdom. So without further ado, here's Clifford Walker. Welcome back to the REI Agent. I'm here with Clifford Walker. Clifford, thanks so much for joining us.
Ooh, doggy. What's going on, brother?
AKA the Cowboy Closer.
Yes, sir. First off, I just want to say it is an honor and a privilege and just a blessing to be here and spend some time with you and your community. Looking forward to this.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that, and we're honored to have you. If the Cowboy Closer, if the voice doesn't tee you guys off, Clifford's coming out of Texas. if you see him, he's got a cowboy hat on. I love it. What part of Texas are you coming out of?
So I'm right outside of Dallas. I'm about 30, 45 minutes outside of Dallas in a town called Wasahatchee.
Wasahatchee. Okay, cool.
Exactly. But
Nice.
What's funny is every time people see me with my hat on, they just automatically think, oh, you're from Texas. But it's so funny, like Oklahoma to me is country. Like when I go to Oklahoma, funny. I'm like, now Oklahoma is country. But it's just so funny because people automatically think from Texas. I'm like, I am.
Well, and I guess in my world, I interview a lot more people from Texas than I do from Oklahoma. So that puts the odds in the favor of Texas for me.
Yes, sir.
And hey, we just came back from a real estate convention as well. My wife and I in Austin, and nice. I don't know how good Austin represents the rest of the state, but I heard Austin's kind of like Portland in a way, where it was a lot of fun. It was a really good vibe.
Yeah. Austin's a quirky little town. I think we call that's our California of Texas. Like sure. It's just a melting pot there. It's all kind of stuff going on in Austin.
No, that's what it was. We went out and we sang karaoke one night, and the place we went to, it was just like at first it was like a couple country songs came on, people were singing, and I was about to do Hamilton. I was about to sing Hamilton. I was like, I don't know if this is going to go over well. And then as the night wore on, it's like everybody was just into whatever song came on. It didn't matter, and it was every genre. It was everything. It was fun.
That's awesome. Don't let my wife hear you say you were doing karaoke. She'll be like, I'm going next. Like, that is her thing. She bought one of those huge, I don't know what it is, like a JBL speaker, like a huge, massive karaoke thing, and like 4 microphones. Like she loves some karaoke.
Okay. All right. She's more into it than me. That's awesome. Maybe I would do it more if I had my own setup, because getting out to a karaoke bar with 3 little kids, it doesn't happen very often. It's kind of a rare thing.
But it made for a good time, didn't
it? Yeah. Anyway, let's get back into real estate. Clifford, tell us a little bit about your story. How'd you get started in real estate?
Oh, it's quite funny to me, hindsight looking back at it. But I got started in real estate while I was truck driving. I was a truck driver when I got started, had absolutely zero experience whatsoever, but I was driving through West Texas. And if anybody knows anything about West Texas, there's nothing out there. And so I'm just driving down the road, and there's a podcast on, and it was so crazy because it's not like I was into podcast at that time. It was just the only thing that was on the radio at the time. That's how rural the area was that I was in. And so the irony is that it was a guy out in New York talking about how much money he was making in real estate, like wholesaling real estate and stuff. And so I'm just sitting on the edge of my seat driving and just soaking it all in. And I'm like, oh, this is it. Like, this is it. And I got back home. I told my wife, I'm like, babe, we're going to start wholesaling real estate. And she's like, what? What are you talking about? And what is that?
Sure.
But from that point,
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, as soon as you said you were a truck driver, I was like, oh, I bet you listen to a ton of audiobooks and a ton of podcasts.
No, not really. It's just, I was at a season in my life where it's kind of weird. Like I really wasn't into personal development like I am now. Mm-hmm. I was just going to work, just existing. And I hope that doesn't sound hard, or harsh. Like so many of us just get in this set routine. We get up, we go to work, we come home, we watch TV, right? Like We might go out on the weekends, but I was just in that realm or time in my life. I was working a job that didn't fulfill me. I was working a job that I knew wasn't my calling. Like, I knew I was meant for more and called for more. It was just, that was just what was paying the bills.
Mm-hmm. No, that makes sense. And that's where you can have that aha moment, especially if you're so inclined to, I don't know what the right type of person is to be, an entrepreneur. I think anybody can do it, but there's probably some that are a little bit more courageous to start than others. So how long from that first podcast till you quit truck driving or kind of went all in?
It was a crazy little roller coaster. So I went down this rabbit hole, and I probably tried it for like 6 months on my own, like just YouTube University, going to every conference, reading every book, every seminar that I could attend. My wife and I were going to. It was crazy. And then I just couldn't get it to click for whatever reason. And then finally I went to this event here in Dallas, Texas, where these guys that were local were offering their mentorship and showing you, what they were doing and how they were doing. And so I said, you know what, I need to just bite the bullet and invest in myself. And then I don't know if something happened when I invested in myself, but it's like you take it a little more serious, maybe. I don't know. But I just took their blueprint that they gave me and I just hit the ground running. And literally, like that first month of working with those coaches, I got 6 deals my first month of under their mentorship. And that's where the whole Cowboy Closer came from, because one day my wife was like, well, I guess you're just the Cowboy Closer, right? And I was like, you know what? I am. And it just kind of stuck. It just became a thing. But then it just took off from there. So once I got that, and then I started doing deals, like after that, it was like 3 months where I just quit truck driving and started doing this full time.
You could see that like you could reproduce what you were doing at enough of a rate that you could sustain it.
Exactly. I just had that proof of concept. That's the biggest thing for most people, especially on the investing side of things. Like, you hear it, right? You hear all the infomercials and the podcasts and the people talking about, doing wholesale deals or buying rentals using other people's money. Like, it all sounds good until you actually do it yourself, because then once you do it, it's like, okay, wow, you really can make this happen. You really can leverage other people's money. I had that proof of concept, and it was over there.
Yeah. So has that been your main focus this whole time, the wholesaling?
I do a melting pot. So yes, I do a lot of virtual wholesaling across 6 different markets. I do some flips. I'll typically do a few flips a year. I'm not big on flips. It's one of those things where I do it to kind of stay current, so to speak. And then I'll buy whatever rentals that I pick up. So for me, I just like to cherry pick what comes across the board and say, okay, this is a perfect one. And I'll just kind of throw it in the bag, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I've done similar. I'm not actively wholesaling. I'm a agent primarily. And, I don't think I've ever really picked up something that's come from somebody wanting to sell their house. But I've got a network of investors, auctions, other wholesalers, et cetera, in our area. And then, whenever something comes across my table that I'm like, that's a sweet property, I want to hold on to it. I do the BRRRR method as opposed to flipping it. And then, if it's one that's just not quite right for what I want to keep, then I'll just go ahead and flip it and sell it. But it's interesting you say that to keep current on the flipping side of things. Now, is that all remote too? Like you said, 6 different markets. So are you going to be flipping stuff, managing stuff remotely?
No. So most of my flips are going to be somewhere where I deem a reasonable driving distance. I don't do any type of virtual flips, like trying to do stuff in Atlanta or anything like that. If I'm out of Texas, it's automatically a wholesale for the most part. Some will be rentals, but they'll have to be pretty much turnkey, where it's just
Sure.
paint and carpet, something simple that we can manage, or even a property management company can get a handyman in there and take care of some of that stuff.
Yeah, that would be a whole different animal. I know with how busy I am and stuff, I sometimes struggle to keep on contractors to do what they need to do in person or like, in my neighborhood. So let alone, trying to manage somebody that's, you can't show up and look what they're doing. It would be a challenge.
Oh, absolutely.
But
even on that stuff, for me, I'm a firm believer in building relationships. Like, I truly believe that real estate is a relationship-based business. Like, the more hands you shake, the money you make. Like, I try to keep the main thing. If I get something that's a flip, I'm not going to go and actually try to take that on my own. I'm going to just pass that to a partner. I'm going to say, hey, I got this property over here in Dallas. Like, I got the deal. I can secure the funding. If you want to oversee the project and do all that, we can just split the profits. Like, that way I don't have to be dealing with contractors or at Home Depot picking out materials, because a lot of the times that stuff is going to derail you. and before you know it, you spent so much time over here flipping. Now all of the other stuff and the lead management and all that, non-sexy stuff that people don't post on social media kind of falls to the wayside, but it's the stuff that moves the needle.
Sure. Now, how's the Dallas market? Is it turning a little bit? Is it a little slower? Is it more risky to take on a flip at this point?
I wouldn't necessarily say it's more risky. I think you got to pay closer attention to the data. I'm a numbers guy. I like looking at the data. I'm not a trend setter. Like, I don't go into an area saying, oh, let me do this or let me do that. I want to go where other investors are, and I want to read the data. I want to see what the average days on market are, what they're selling for, et cetera. So I'm kind of making the safest guesstimate, so to speak, because that's all it is,
Right.
that I can make. But yeah, stuff is definitely sitting longer. And there's just certain pockets where it's like, okay, this will move very quickly. And so it's just hit or miss. But I think that's kind of nationwide, it seems like.
Yeah, for the most part, it is. I think there's some markets that are definitely experiencing more of a slowdown. Florida, Arizona, and I think maybe Austin is the biggest one in Texas. Of the, I don't know for sure, but I get a pulse from talking to different people, and I think it's interesting to hear how people's outlooks are, depending on where I'm talking, where they're coming from. But I think you're right. I mean, like, I think you got to be conservative. You got to know your numbers, and know what's going to work, and stay true to that and not be overly optimistic that it's just going to work out.
Exactly. I will be over conservative, probably too conservative so much on the numbers. But again, it keeps me safe, and it keeps me, not losing my tail. I've only been in this industry since 2019. So this is my 6th year, and I've seen some horror stories. I've seen some people that started with me who they went back to working a 9-to-5 just because they lost their tail. And so I want to learn from their mistakes. And so I definitely try to look at things from that high level kind of overview.
Yeah. I was just having a conversation about somebody who was wholesaling a lot in the past and kind of transitioned into a different space a little bit. And part of the reason they did so was it was very transactional. And I think that that's true for real estate agents as well. Like, the sales are just transactional. What's your kind of big picture plan? Are you working on, like, you keep building up those rental portfolios to kind of like, get yourself, are you wanting to be fully passive income at a certain point? Are you looking to, get out of the day-to-day grind at some point, or what's that look like for you?
I think all of the above, right? Like, I definitely want to keep adding to the portfolio and live as passively as I can, for sure. I think too, also, I go so back and forth with this. I definitely want to build a business that can function without me. I think that's a
Mm-hmm.
completely different ball game and conversation. A lot of entrepreneurs, quote unquote, think they have a business. You just have a full-time job. you just
Yeah. Yep.
you just work for yourself, right? But that's taken some time to kind of build out. And I do go back and forth saying, hey, do I want to move in this arena? Um, and then two, also God is opening up new doors for me that I didn't think that I would enjoy as much as I do. So it's yeah, I'm all over the place. To answer your question,
Sure.
I honestly don't know how to answer it because again, I don't have it all figured out. I'm just kind of working it as I go and seeing which way the Lord leads me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think a lot of agents and wholesalers are in that, like I think if you're not stopping to think about, retirement, not that, we're close to that age, but
Yeah.
like what do you want? You can just be caught, you know, moving your like lifestyle up to like, your the amount of money you're earning, which probably is more than, when you were truck driving or when you
Oh,
were
yeah.
before your sale, whatever. And then you're just kind of stuck in that rat race. And, I think that's the beauty of the investing space is there's so many different ways of you can kind of be very passive and invest in something and kind of
Yeah.
build it bigger than yourself, or bigger than your actions. And another point that you were just talking about was like, building a business that runs without you. This person I was just talking to, and I think this is true for most agents, is that they also can't sell their business. Like a lot of people will be able to build up something that they can then sell, and that's their retirement. But that's usually not the case. You can kind of like in real estate sales, you can kind of like pass on your book of clients and do some kind of referral thing, but it's not the same. And that's
Yeah.
going to be the case for wholesaling for the most part, I imagine as well. But if you do build up that business, that's something that somebody could acquire and keep running without having to necessarily accept a full-time job like you said.
Exactly. But I do think it's important to kind of piggyback and go back to the whole retirement thing, especially for agents and even other investors and wholesalers, right? Who are actively investing. Like we don't get another check unless we do another wholesale or another fix and
Yep.
flip, right? Or you get another listing. So I think it's important to be looking down the line. And one thing that I've really just been preaching on and leaning really hard on lately is this whole you're just one property away. Like when I got started, I told myself, I said, you know what, I'm going to buy just 4 rentals a year, right? Over the next 10 years, that'll be about 40 rental properties, right? If I'm doing that math correctly, right? And then I can say, all right, do I want to retire after that? I don't plan on retiring, no.
Right.
But let me
Right.
ask you, would you be mad in 10 years if you only had 4 rental properties? That's 1 a quarter, right? Would anybody on this call be mad about that? No,
Yeah.
not at all, right? And I know we have so many gurus and people on social media telling you, go out here, you need to be buying 100 doors a year and all of these other things. And I'm in a mastermind with a guy that has 2,300 properties, which I love it. That's amazing. I'm not knocking it.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is most people will not get to that. That is not the norm for so many people, right? And then when we start breaking that down even more, let's be honest. If you only bought 2 rental properties a year, just 2, in 10 years from now, would you be mad that you only have 20 rental properties? Like, really? Like,
Right.
I only got 20 rental properties. Like, God, you
Most
forsake me, right? Like,
most people will be thinking, so jealous of you and your situation and think you're, super loaded, et cetera, in that
exactly.
position.
Now, let's take it down another notch. Like, seriously, 1 rental property a year. That's extremely doable. Just 1 a year. In 10 years from now, even knowing what we know historically, that those property values are going to double or should double every 10 years, right? If you
Mm-hmm.
only bought one single rental property a year over the next 10 years, alongside doing whatever it is that you're doing. And there's so many ways that you could do that creatively through sub-twos and creative finance, seller financing, right? The BRRRR strategy, that's the strategy I use, like we can do that one a year. And so I want to encourage everybody, because you're not going to be mad 10 years from now and say, I only have 10 rental properties that's doubled in value, that's cash flowing, that's building generational wealth that I can leave to my kids, right? Like, I think we really need to change that narrative and put things in such a different perspective for people that's obtainable. That is obtainable.
Right. Because the opposite is like you're overwhelmed. Like, I'm never going to be able to do that many. So like, I'm not going to do anything. And like,
Exactly.
it's obviously way worse. And, you know, I like to do the analogy of like, you know, the best time to buy a house, to buy real estate was, you know, 10 years ago or whatever. The next best time is now. And I think, you know, a lot of people hearing what you said might have that, but interest rates are so high, the prices are still really high. Like that's not a good time to buy real estate. And I think that's, you know, yes, you want to make sure the numbers work. You don't want to buy a bad deal. You want to make sure that you can hold on to that long term. But it is a long-term game. I mean, and, you know, I've said this a couple times, but, you know, when rates plummeted, I had a buddy with, you know, 40 rentals that he was able to refinance them all. He would now have been able to buy 40 rentals when rates were at, you know, 2.5%. It just wouldn't have happened. So like there's advantages, and, you know, he's doing very well with that portfolio now. And yeah, so, I mean, yeah, keep trying to find that deal. And if you have to get a little more creative, like, you know, with the BRRRR method, or whatever, and maybe looking at things like the, you know, co-living kind of opportunities to make the rent actually work out a little bit better if the payments are just too high with the traditional financing and traditional rental. So there's a way. You just got to get a little more creative.
Absolutely. I think that's the key, that people need to start thinking widely outside of the box and figure out ways to get creative.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, like you said, like those conferences and those getting into groups of people that have done things more than you is such a great place to be. I mean, the best place to be is in like where you feel like you're the least seasoned and dumbest person in the room. That's when you know you're in the right room.
Oh, 100%, 100%. It's insane to me how many folks, I think we've all heard the saying, you are the sum of the 5 people you hang around. But how many people actually pay attention to the people they are hanging around? Like it's crazy to me. And so I think for me specifically, when I really started to look at my life from that holistic perspective and realize, like, you know, not from a sense of judgment, like I'm not judging you. It's just that maybe I need to raise my standard so I can step into the calling that God wants me to do. And this ain't it. And so I had to start finding rooms that were feeding my mind, that were feeding my spirit, that uplifted me, that made me start looking at things from a completely different perspective. Right? Like it's just, it's insane to me how many folks don't look at that.
100%. Yeah. And I mean, I don't think you necessarily have to go and cut, you know, all your friends and family out of your life right away or anything like that. But but yeah, like make an intentional effort to get into those rooms, like you said, like that will bring you up and bring a different perspective about, because it is true. I mean, like you've got, you're gonna raise that level. If you have questions, you have people to talk to, and yeah, it's powerful. So, you know, it's often sounds cliche. Like, you know, I think, you know, when I first started kind of down this path, you know, even reading self-help books just felt like I wanted to, you know, put a different book cover on the top of it and pretend I was reading Harry Potter or something. You know what I mean? Like it's like there's stigma to that kind of stuff, but like, you know, I think that's probably coming from people who are afraid to grow. And I mean, if you're not challenging yourself, it's not a fun life. I mean, I think it's the most fun to put yourself out there a little bit and get through it and get better.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the end of the day, worst case scenario, like I gave one of my coaches gave me this scenario, and he told me, he said, Clifford, what if you jump into real estate investing and you give it every single thing that you have? What is the absolute worst that could happen? What is the absolute worst that could happen? You go back to driving a truck and living that current level of lifestyle that you were living. Like that's the worst, right? Like I'm not going to end up under a bridge. I might have to sell my house. I might get a truck repoed, a car repoed, maybe, right? If it goes that far, we take it that far. But at the end of the day, you can get another car, you can get another house, right?
It's true.
You'll go back to work, working, whatever job that you were doing. In 7 years, your credit will, all that stuff will fall off your credit. Your credit will be back where it was, right? And then life will go on. But at the end of the day, you gave it everything you had. You took a massive leap of faith, and you got a heck of a story to tell.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you take the most extreme examples of like things going to crap for jumping all in. Like I've talked to multiple people that they went through bankruptcy. They usually, the turn when the bubble burst, that's kind of where they got stuck. And they went through bankruptcy from that. And they all like attribute it to being a good thing because they had to really learn like private equity and creative finance and all that kind of stuff. And it kind of was like turned into this positive thing instead of like this life ending thing. And so they didn't even go back, even though they had probably the worst thing that could happen. Right.
Yeah.
They go back to their old life. They just figured out how to do it. And they learned the game in a different way that they are now grateful almost that they went through that process. I mean, nobody's going to say, go out there. The best way to the success is to go through bankruptcy so you can learn how to do things without banks. But it's a good perspective to have, and it's good perspective to know, like going into it, that like it's not that. Yeah, you can make things work even if things get ugly. And there's a million people that it never got ugly for. So not to that level. So.
Exactly. And so I just find that fear holds so many people back. And I do want to encourage people, like, you're all going to have that little bit of fear, that a little bit of nervousness. But change that what if to, what if it does work instead of what if it doesn't, right? And look at things from that lens. Because again, when I jumped into this, I didn't have any experience whatsoever. And like you said, many folks, it doesn't go to that extreme. You're going to realize that, wow, I jumped in this pool and it's not as deep as I thought. Like I can stand up. I'm not drowning.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So no, I do encourage everybody to take that leap of faith. And if it's on your heart to say, you know what, I want to turn this into a business. I do want to make a bigger impact. I do want to start, building generational wealth for my family. Right? Just do it one single property at a time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like there's also different levels of jumping in. Like, I mean, like you can simply, I mean, a good friend of mine, he's a perfect example. He was blessed and had great parents and worked really hard through high school. And as soon as he got a job, they're like, you're opening up a Roth IRA. And he maximized that every year, all through college. He got that thing filled up so that when he was out of college, he had enough money he could put into a house and he could buy his first house. He was living in it. He kept that thing rented. There's 2 extra bedrooms. He rented those out to friends, mostly people he knew through grad school, all this stuff. He never had a mortgage payment the whole time. That house has doubled in value. That house, he's paid off a good chunk now. He's now able to hold that house and move into another house that he just bought. But all that to say is like, that's also investing. He may not have like necessarily had this big master plan of how he was going to house hack. He doesn't even know that it is probably, and how he was going to build up a rental portfolio doing that. But you can, and it can be that easy. Like you can just, keep your job for now, buy your first house, rent out some rooms, or maybe buy a duplex, quadruplex, whatever. And then And then as soon as you can, buy the next one. And that's also investing. So like, it doesn't have to be this big pie in the sky thing. It can be a lot more, and you can make a lot more, and you can get, a lot further along, but that's also a super valid way of kind of getting started.
Nice. I agree 1,000%. And I'm not one of the entrepreneurs too that are like, quit that job, stop working that job. I'm not really anti-job like you'll see a lot of people, kind of do. But I do think that there's a way that you can actually leverage your job to get what you want, to maybe qualify for certain loans or get additional funding or things of that nature that you can go and reinvest. So that way, when the time is right, that you can quit your job and design the life that you want. So I actually think that's smart. I quit mine. I know that's kind of contradicting, but I was also too, I was at a point where I was working a job that didn't fulfill me. I didn't like it. I was, gone over the road. I was missing my family, my kids, and, my health was taking a toll. So.
No, it's not a one size fits all. I just think that, if you don't own a house yet, and that's one of your goals, and you want to build up a portfolio that way, by house hacking, buying your first house to live in, you might want to consider keeping that job for that first one at least, and know that if you're a full-time wholesaler, full-time agent, that it's going to take you 2 years of doing that for taxes to have that tax records to be able to get a mortgage. So just keep that in mind if you're going to jump all in. But I mean, at the same time, I think it can be right for people. I mean, it sounds like it was a perfect move for you.
Yeah. Just know that I think you hit the nail on the head. It's not a one size fits all. Look at your life, look at what's going on and adjust. Just know that there's ways around it. Because even if you do, like there's home loans for investors and business owners that you can qualify or get creative with.
No, totally. Yeah. No, it's great. And that like we've been talking about, getting in the room with people that know this stuff, that are further ahead than you, listening to podcasts like this, reading books, like that's all going to help you have that knowledge to make the right decisions for you personally.
Yeah, absolutely.
Clifford, I was curious if you have any golden nuggets you want to share for our listeners. That could be like fundamental facts or kind of a nuanced, niched thing for wholesaling, or whatever comes to mind.
Golden nugget. Let me see. Well, I think for me specifically, and this might make more sense, like me doing a direct to seller model, reaching out to people in foreclosure and probate and going through divorce and all of those things. I truly believe that what we're doing is building generational wealth by serving other people. That is my focus. Sure. And that is the way that I go into every conversation, focusing on how I can serve them. And when I go in there with that mindset, it actually alleviates any pressure of me needing to be some type of grandmaster closer. I don't need to be some type of cowboy closer, right? I can go into this conversation and say, hey, how can I serve you? How can I help you? If we're a good fit to work together, great. If not, that's great too, right? And I think that if you go in there with that mindset, it's going to give you a whole new level of peace, a whole new level of fulfillment. You're going to sleep very peacefully at night. This is not about going in there and just lowballing sellers, right? And getting property at the cheapest price. I think that we need to focus more on that side of things. I love it. I believe you can put people over profits and still run a profitable company. Like it's it doesn't have to be one or the other.
I agree completely. I think that's a really good way to build any business if you're in real estate sales. I think keeping that, you want those people to be coming back to you, their next transaction. You want them to be singing your praises off the rooftops of your city so that other people come to you as well. I think that's all like a great mindset to have. It's definitely not. You don't have to be like a used car salesman that you like swindle people into something. It's you can definitely run a wholesome business.
Exactly.
No offense to car salesman. um, what about books? Do you have any like fundamental books you think everybody should read, or a book that you currently are really enjoying?
They should definitely read my book, Roadmap to Success. Right.
There you go.
No, there's several. I'm currently reading Psycho-Cybernetics, if I'm reading that, if I'm saying that correctly.
Okay.
It's about just almost kind of like auto suggestion and the way that you kind of see yourself and just the thoughts that we say to ourselves. That's a really good one. I'm enjoying it right now. I just started.
Okay.
I'm about halfway through. And then actually, The Go-Giver is a really good book. It's a small book, but it's so powerful. And it kind of talks about building a business that's built around giving and serving other people. It's a foundational book for me, and I think will bless
I love
any.
it. Yeah, that's great. I haven't read the first one, but The Go-Giver is great. Cool. And if anybody wants to read your book or find out more about you, where can they find you? Social media, websites?
I'm pretty active on social media. Clifford Walker, the Cowboy Closer, across Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I post videos on YouTube pretty much daily. I do live trainings every month at least, showing people, how I do the BRRRR strategy and breaking down actual deals that I'm doing and currently doing that's, free that people can attend.
Nice. That's awesome. Hey, Clifford, it's been a lot of fun talking to you. I really appreciate your time and the wisdom you've just shared with the audience.
No, it's my pleasure, brother. I appreciate you having me on.
Thanks for listening to the REI Agent.
If you enjoyed this episode, hit subscribe to catch new shows every week.
Visit reiagent.com for more content.
Until next time, keep building the life you want.
All content in the show is not investment advice or mental health therapy. It is intended for entertainment purposes only.